Today I wanted to talk about the... Oh, sorry, do you think I'm boring? Today I wanted to talk about the thing that I think could be the most important piece of writing advice I'm ever going to share. Or kind of the two pieces of most important pieces of writing advice that I'm going to share with you. And basically it's a very simple thing, but it is the fundamental basis to all of my Deciphering writing advice videos. So if you don't know, Deciphering writing advice is a series that I do right here on YouTube where I take the pithy little lines of advice, like "said is dead," for example, or "write what you know." Actually, that one's quite old, don't necessarily watch that, I really want to redo it, but those kinds of things, and I expand them into what is hopefully a clearer definition, and then explain how you might want to use or essentially abuse those pieces of advice to make the best writing product that you can. And all of this is based on this fundamental platform, this fundamental foundation that I am now sharing with you, which is twofold. There's two pieces to it, which is why it's sort of 1/2 pieces of advice. So the first piece of it is balance, and the second piece of it is practice. So what I mean by balance is that every piece of writing advice... Are you licking your penis right now? I'm filming a video. Could you stop? Could you stop? Just for a few minutes. Could you? Thank you. Little boy. No, thank you. So the first piece is balance. And balance is basically, what I mean by balance in this situation is that you're taking these pieces of advice and you're finding the right amount to follow them to. Like, "said is dead" as a piece of advice, I think is bullshit, but as a piece of advice basically means using "said" every single time as your dialogue tag and using no other dialogue tags in your entire novel can be boring to the reader, and it can make the word "said" very, very visible and very frustrating or irritating to a reader. Thank you. So using something other than "said" is a really good idea. And therein, this is where, using something other than "said" can be a good idea, but the balance part is not using something other than "said" every single time, using "said" and other dialogue tags and action blocking and all of that kind of stuff reasonably and with a good amount of balance for your style and the story you want to tell and how you want to tell it. But how do you get to know your style, and how do you get to know what the right balance is for you? Because each person has their own individual level of balance. Like, I don't tend to use the dialogue tag "said" very often because it is a locational device and the way that I write dialogue doesn't necessarily need it very often. So I don't use it all that often. Which is not to say that, like, the example that's always given of, like, "How are you?" he muttered. "I'm fine," she whispered. "Oh, that's great, I'm fine too," he shouted. And, like, the incongruous dialogue tags, alternate dialogue tags one after another. I don't do that. Head to nopoodles.wordpress.com and read one of my free short stories if you want to see the kind of dialogue tags I use. There's a new one every single week, except for very briefly in July and December. Anyway, my point is, how do you know? How do you find out? Like, how did I find out that that's the optimum style of dialogue tags for me? How did I find out that I like using ones that are not "said" the vast majority of the time, using "said" very occasionally, but let's be honest, majorly action blocking. Action blocking is my jam. It's my thing. I love it so much. It is my favourite. How did I find that out? How did I learn that? Well, partially through reading other people's books and seeing what they did and emulating their style, and like particularly when I was a teenager, because when I was a teenager was when I was really getting into the idea of writing books as an actual thing, not just writing stories for funsies, but writing books for the purpose of, having a book finished. Took me a lot of years subsequent to teenagehood to be able to actually get there, but that's not the point. I'm not saying you have to be a teenager to be doing this thing. I'm saying that as a newbie writer, I was a teenager, so when you are new and discovering your style, emulating other people is a great way to practice. Don't publish something that you have emulated someone else's style through. But yeah, practice is the most important part. You can practice by emulating other people's style. You can practice by writing challenges like "For Said is Dead." You can do a writing challenge where you're only allowed to use "said" as a dialogue tag, and then you can do a writing challenge where you're not allowed to use the word "said" at all. And then you can do a writing challenge where you're not allowed to use any dialogue tags, but you have to make it clear who's saying what as you're going through the scene with a lot of dialogue in it. And when I planned this video, I was going to use the passive voice because it's so much easier. But that's one of the things I said in my passive voice video was about writing a whole paragraph or a whole flash fiction piece entirely in the passive voice and then translating it out of the passive voice, so that you're not just practiced at the art of finding the passive voice, but also at the art of translating out of the passive voice so that you can choose when you want to use it. Which comes back to the balance thing, because it's all about when you want to use it, finding the right balance for you through practice. I feel like I'm just hammering this round and round and round. But yeah, I'll be honest. I spent a lot of my teenage years emulating other people's writing styles to see what it was like and to see what I could do. And then I still set myself challenges to this day, but then I started finding my own style through that. I could take the things that I really liked that other people did and utilize them to reform and rework into something that fit more with my style and the story that I wanted to tell. And then from there I shifted into doing stuff that was entirely in my own style. And I'll still take inspiration from other people's work, and I'll still take inspiration from other pieces of media. But those are mostly, the pieces of inspiration I take are mostly the highest form of concept. If you zoom way, 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 way out, past macroscope, again, another explanation in another video, but past macroscope, way, way, way out to the quickest pitch on the planet, or a trope-based pitch. Those are the things I'll take. Take as inspiration. Those are the things that I'll take inspiration from and utilize in my own way. I did a short story called Your Eyes Are the Colour of Home, which is based on alien courting rituals, and how one of them does poetry as courting. And I took inspiration for that from Mass Effect, the Blue Rose of Ilium quest in Mass Effect 2, where there's a Krogan and an Asari. This is a lot of explanation for very little relevance, but there's a Krogan and an Asari, and they were in a relationship but broke up because the Asari is worried that the Krogan, these are two kinds of aliens, the Asari is worried that the Krogan is only with her because he wants kids, and she's worried that he won't be happy when the kids are Asari, because that's just how it works. This is the whole Mass Effect thing. And he's created poetry for her to try and convince her that he is soft and loving and cares for her in an Asari way and not in a Krogan way. And it's very, very sweet. And I took that and I thought, what if that was just the way that people courted? What if poetry was such an intrinsic part of courting? Because it has been in human courting at various stages in history and in various locations around the world. So wouldn't it be interesting if that was still a thing? And doing interspecies, inter-alien courting through that would be so cool. It's nothing like the Mass Effect version, because literally the only thing it has in common is there are aliens courting each other through poetry. But when I was a teenager / a newbie writer, when I was still figuring out my style, I would have used that and leaned more heavily on what happens in the Mass Effect version of that story, compared to now, where I can take the high concept, the very base, once you take away all of the pieces that make it Mass Effect, and put it into my own universe and my own ideas. And I think that really interestingly does sort of create a, like, I don't want to say comparison, but sort of a similarity to Kate Kavanagh made a video very recently about like people's confessions, and one of them was about, and like she's had this ongoing conversation ever since, I don't know if you saw the bad art friend thing, I'm not going to go into it now, but ever since then, about what is a fair amount of inspiration to take and what is too far and feels more like stealing or even, dare I say, plagiarism. And I've been finding this conversation really, really interesting. I don't have anything to contribute to it right now, I guess, apart from this, that emulating somebody else's style or taking a plot or a scene from somebody else's work as a practice piece that you're never going to use for anything isn't a bad thing. Like, it's kind of like fan fiction. Making money off it would be wrong. Not making money off it, you're pretty much fine. Like, I guess for me there is also the line of, like, I wouldn't share something that I felt was too close to somebody else's work under my publishing name, which is just mine, but I wouldn't share it on nopoodles.wordpress.com. I'd be more inclined to share it on a fan fiction site, because I think again, it's all about finding the balance for you, but you have to find what is the right balance for you and how much is too much of somebody else's work to put in your own work. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But yes, so the only way to find out how to balance these different and often contradictory pieces of writing advice, which again allows you to work a greater understanding of why these pieces of advice are so contradictory, not to keep harping on about said is dead, said is invisible. But those are contradictory pieces of advice. You can't have said be both dead and invisible. Well, I mean, I suppose you can, but like, it can't be the best dialogue tag and be the worst dialogue tag at the same time. It has its purpose, and its purpose is very specific, but you only find that through practice. No, I've got wrangled there. Said cannot both be dead and invisible, but these are two pieces of advice that exist. And the thing is neither of them is exactly wrong, which is why I made just the one video all about dialogue tags. Because these two pieces of advice have to be balanced out with one another. You have to find the right balance for you. And the only way to find the right balance for you, because it is all about finding your own style, is through doing practice. And practice is anything from doing proper writing challenges, like I just said, about like writing a scene or a short story or a flash fiction piece where you can only use said, and writing a scene or a short story or a flash fiction piece where you cannot use said at all, and one where you can only use action blocking to denote who's speaking. All the way through to I write a short story every single week of the year, or at least I publish a short story every single week of the year, which means, near enough, which means that I have to have one for every single week of the year, near enough. Which usually ends up meaning that on Thursday morning I go, oh no, I haven't written my short story yet, I've got to do it now, because I am chaos incarnate. But that is a challenge that I set myself, is to write these short stories so regularly, because I know that it improves my craft, and I know that I can set myself these little challenges for these short stories, because no one's paying me for them. I mean, you absolutely can tip me on my coffee account, but no one's paying me for them. So like, so they're being put out there for free. It's not like I have to hold myself to any specific standard. It's not like when I'm writing books where I've got to make it all match itself, and I've got to make sure that it's up to a publishing standard and up to a standard where I feel it's fair to ask people to pay for it. Does that make sense? That's another one of those balance things. Anyway, I hope you found this video entertaining, if not helpful. I mean, ideally, I hope you found it very helpful. I tried to be helpful. If you want to find me or my book, it's a bit battered, but Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse, or its sequel, Mary Arlan Finding the Air, I would so love to hold up a copy, but I have brought it back from my Like, I've got a copy of it somewhere in the house, but I don't know where it is. Don't move. Oh, God. And find all the links you would need in the description box below, including a link to my Ko-fi account. And that description box is, of course, right next to the like and subscribe buttons, if you feel like sticking around. I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Probably not with all of the pets. But maybe, who knows? This is my life. They come and go as they please. Hi, baby. Hi, baby Beta. Meow. Meow. Hello, Smello. Don't. No, leave that alone, please. Thank you. Good boy. Good boy. Aw, hiya. Come here. Loop. Ah. Yeah. Hiya. Thank you. Thank you. You don't normally do that. Mwah. Mwah. Anyway.